Welcome. This is another episode of Leading Las Vegas. I'm Danielle Ford of DanielleFord.com, where visibility makes a difference. And my lovely, lovely guest today is Ruth E. Hedges. She is a pioneer in the crowdfunding industry, and she actually was responsible for helping to get a bill passed in Congress. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
That is amazing. Thank you
you
so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about being here.
So can you give our audience a little bit more of the backstory specifically around that bill that you got passed? That's so impressive and interesting.
Thank you. Yes, it was actually during the height of the recession. There was a great, there was no access to capital. VCs, angels, and the banks stopped lending and stopped investing. And a group of us got together and went, we realized we would need to remove an 80-year-old securities law, which prevented all of us from investing in each other because we weren't considered accredited investors.
Wow.
Yeah, and most people didn't know that. But
I don't think people know that still.
And it was just basically protections that were put in the 1920s when a guy could drive up to a farm and try and sell fake stock certificates from the back of a pickup truck. But of course, with the internet now, that's not an issue. So we did. We actually wrote a bill called the Startup Exemption. We went to Congress. We walked the halls. We got signatures. Eventually, people like Steve Case, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and a whole bunch of other people joined our cause. And April 5th, 2012, the President Obama signed it into law. It was called the Jobs Act. It's the crowdfunding bill, Title 34A6.
Wow, so this has really been since 2012 that it's taken off. Then.
Yes.
I've noticed that too. It's almost like it came out of nowhere. People just crowdfunding for so it's almost like there was a demand for it and people were pigeonholed into how am I going to get money, and you guys saw an opportunity to help everybody and go and allow that.
Well, what we did is we looked at the reward and donation model, which is where most viewers would be familiar, which is like a Kickstarter, which is reward-based crowdfunding, or Indiegogo, where you have a prototype, but you don't have the money for the inventory. So you go online and you ask the public, you basically say, if you help me on the front end, I'll give you a copy of this product for much less than what you pay once it's in the marketplace. That's reward-based crowdfunding. And then the other one is GoFundMe, which everybody's now familiar with, which is cause-based or donation-based crowdfunding. And so we took the functionality of that and we added the stock. So it's all the same, essentially. It's just the process is the same, but the end result is different.
That's amazing. A lot of my audience are people that care a great deal about causes and are not necessarily, some people don't feel comfortable doing crowdfunding. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, well, a lot of people think that like you're begging,
or
it's sort of like this kind of a pathetic thing to have to do. And it's really, I believe, that it's the best of our humanity.
Right.
When we can actually go out in the world and talk to complete strangers and make a case for something and have them ask them to join us in whether it's a cause or whether it's an innovative idea that we as a society need in the world, to be able to just go out into the world on social media and have that conversation is absolutely amazing. And just to put it in perspective, when I started in this industry in 2012, the entire crowdfunding industry was $1.7 billion. Today, it's over $60 billion.
Oh my gosh.
So we clearly are doing something right that people should feel okay with.
Right.
It's not
almost,
like,
Yeah, I felt like that too. I've dabbled in crowdfunding a little bit, and I have gotten like really positive responses of people that want to support, and then I've even gotten people that are like, oh, but why are you asking for money? And to me, just like you said, it's like giving people an opportunity to be part of something amazing, which would have just gone to a bank who gave a loan or whatever. It's nowadays with the internet, it's like people can make a difference by just donating $5 or buying a product. That's great. So if somebody was interested in getting started with crowdfunding, they just didn't know what platform to use or what to do, but they knew they needed to raise a certain amount of money, is there maybe like a step-by-step or simple step process or some tips that you would have for them to get started?
Sure. So we actually built something. It's called crowdfundingcrm.com. And it's a planning tool that walks you through the entire process. Everything from how to showcase that you're a thought leader in whatever it is you're trying to raise the money in, building a crowd, writing a press release, getting a lot of fans and followers and friends, building a list to email. More than 40% of the money that's raised in crowdfunding is done by email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So you really want to start to build a list with like, you know, a lead gen page where you can capture someone's name and email address.
Wow.
And then even the video. You have 100% failure rate without a video. So you don't even bother crowdfunding if you don't have a video.
Really?
That's how important the video is.
I would assume it would be very important, but that's really shocking. 100% failure rate. Wow.
And then there are other things like you have to get some commitment ahead of time. So you don't want to start. This is one of the biggest things people do, because I get thousands of social media tweets. Will you share my campaign? Will you help promote my? And I look at them and I see the first thing they do is it's zero. So the campaign started a week ago and it's still at zero.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a complete stranger, and so are the rest of the people showing up. But the person putting on the campaign must have somebody who loves and cares about them enough to give them $20.
Right.
If like a parent, a sister, a brother, somebody.
Right.
If they can't find somebody who they really know, why should the public who shows up as a stranger look at that campaign and think, well, I'll be the first one to give you the $20? It makes no sense.
Do you think it would be smart for them even just to do it themselves, almost like putting a few dollars in the tip jar?
So exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
what we recommend in our product, the crowdfunding CRM, is we say get like 25 to 30% committed by people who are really your tribe
support
per
group.
se. Yeah, but just, it could be like you could have some scientific thing and you have a cure for something, and you already have been networking with business people in that area. They want to see you produce this product, so they would be inclined to help support your thing on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way the strangers who show up and now see this groundswell of money flowing in the first couple of days. They see 50, 100 backers, which is listed on the campaign page.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to compel people. So let me tell you another trick. You are better getting $300, a dollar from 300 people than $300 from one person.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these platforms like Indiegogo and Kickstarter and the other 2,000 platforms around the world in every language you can think of today, they want your customers' name and email address. So if you can bring 300 people in like the first 24 hours to give you $1 or $5, that's worth a lot of money to the platform. So what they're going to do is they're going to take your campaign and they're going to uplift it on maybe to their homepage.
That's so smart.
Or they're going to put it in the next newsletter because they're going to think, wow, this is a great, look at all the traffic.
Tweet about it, spotlight it.
Exactly.
Make it a case study. This person raised so much money in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. That I wouldn't have, and I do marketing and I kind of think about those things and I hadn't even considered that as a way. That's really, really smart.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just wanted to address something you brought up before. People shouldn't feel ashamed of using crowdfunding. I'm going to give you some examples. LeVar Burton crowdfunded Reading Rainbow. He raised $5 million. Now, you would think LeVar Burton could pick up the phone and call anybody on the planet and find money who needed it.
Yeah.
But it's just not that easy for anybody to raise money. Kristen Bell raised over $5 million for Veronica Mars, and she took the TV show and she made a movie out of it. There's all kinds of people. We had this company last year that came to my convention, and they had raised $8 million for a card game called Exploding Kittens, and they had 218,000 backers. That's twice as large as the next closest campaign ever in the history. And it was because this celebrity cartoonist had created, his name is Oatmeal, had created the design for this card game. And he already had a following. So he was able to just immediately get all this excitement around his new Exploding Kittens idea. And they didn't even have a prototype. They just had some postcards with some little drawings on it. And literally this thing took off. And in 30 days, they raised $8 million.
So to piggyback off that, because you just gave me like a bunch of, so many thoughts are coming to mind right now. But when you said that, the thing that I first thought of is like, how are conventional retail products and like say a game or a movie studio, how are they responding to this kind of crowdfunding? Do you think they feel like intimidated by it?
No. Last year, 10% of the films at Sundance were crowdfunded.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you go into like the gaming industry, it's huge. people have great ideas, but they can't get past the prototype. They can't get the money to create the inventory. So they're stuck in that prototype stage. And crowdfunding helps them. And then you have this amazing proof of concept. So even like Sony has used it to prove a product's idea. Some big corporations will use it. They don't need the money. They just want to see if there's interest
before
in it.
Before they invest. In it,
last year we had Johnson & Johnson. They have a platform called Caring Crowd. They want to do medical research. So, for example, if there's a rare disease and there's not enough, they don't believe there's enough money in it for them to do the research. If a group of people who all have the disease or their families get together and crowdfund the research, and they can prove, they get through the research and it's successful, they'll create the medicine.
Oh my gosh.
And they'll pay for the medicine side if the public pays for the research.
Right. That makes so much sense than one person trying to fund them.
And then it also proves that there's enough of a lot of people out there with that disease. So it makes financial sense for them.
It makes financial sense for the pharmaceutical companies to finally get on board and help.
And then you have a whole world of like research crowdfunding. You have science crowdfunding. You have crowdfunding for college tuition. Millions of people, not millions, but lots of people are crowdfunding today for obviously because it's so expensive. You have real estate crowdfunding. That's a huge thing too. So you could own a piece of a condo, but not the whole condo. You can own a piece of the building.
Yeah.
You can own a piece of a hotel. You can own a piece of an office building that you would never be able to buy an office building, but you can own a piece of one.
What about these? I've seen some kind of like pop-up, almost like pop-up social media crowdfunding, like Patreon. Would you consider that crowdfunding? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think that's kind of like where crowdfunding is going?
I think there is. They have a wonderful platform. It's kind of like a matching thing where there's federal funding, there's grant money.
Wow.
For a park, right? But the park costs $100,000 and the grant will only give $50,000. So they on that platform they match. They match the other 50. Amazing. If the crowd comes through with the 50, they get the other 50.
Wow, I just didn't even realize the opportunities that are in crowdfunding. I know that you have a yearly convention that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So every October of the last 6 years, we've been gathering the industry leaders from all over the world. We've had people from 22 countries, and we've had people from as far away as Singapore, Australia, Taiwan, Chile, and we've had a great influence. In fact, we got a phone call a couple of years ago from the Spanish embassy. They wanted to buy 12 tickets because they have a 40% unemployment rate in Spain, and they desperately needed some way to create jobs. And startups are the job creators. They create 60% of all the jobs in the world. So we put on, it's called the Global Crowdfunding Convention. It's in October every year. This is our 6th convention. And we're really excited. This year we have Microsoft as our sponsor.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
and we're working with their Department of Supply Diversity, which is the part of Microsoft that helps women, minorities, and veterans and LGBT community get these contracts as part of the supply diversity world. But a lot of them need access to capital because they don't have enough money to buy the inventory. They have sort of the same problem. So we are now introducing this new thing. And so it's the gccworld.com. That's the address.
gccworld.com.
The gccworld.com.
The T-H-E.
The T-H-E,
okay.
Yeah.
Very good to know. Wow. Thank you so much. If you guys are interested in crowdfunding or have done it before and want to ramp it up for the next time, check out that convention. Also, where can they find you in general online?
So I am on Startups Map is my personal Twitter handle.
Okay.
Startups Map. Funding Roadmap. The GCC World. I have 5 different Twitter.
I would
accounts,
imagine,
right?
yeah.
We have the GCC World has a Facebook page.
Okay.
And you can just Google me. I'm all over the place.
We'll post those links below the video too, so go ahead and check that out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on here. You are so inspiring, and I know that I'm sure people are taking notes and running now to go learn more about you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, this is Ruth E. Hedges, and I'm Danielle Ford, and this has been another episode of Leading Las Vegas. I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
If you loved this episode of Leading Las Vegas, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also watch more episodes like this here or on leadinglasvegas.com.